You know, a lot of people, they like to shoot street photography with their full frame cameras, but the problem is with the lenses that they're so large, sometimes you can't be inconspicuous, and there's really no way to stick the camera into your pocket. But Viltrox has a solution for you today, and that is their little Pancake lens, the 28mm f4.5. Is it really worth it? It's called the chip, and that's coming right up. And a quick little disclaimer, Viltrox, they did send me this lens for review. They did not pay me for this review. They didn't tell me what to say, and they don't get to see this video before it's released. So with that out of the way, let's talk about this Viltrox lens, a little Pancake lens. It's called the chip, I guess because it's kind of just a little bit bigger than what a poker chip would be. And it's got some really cool aspects to it, but you know what? First, let's talk about what comes inside the box. Well, the lens comes inside of a white box. You get a manual and warranty cards. Inside the foam is the lens itself that comes with a plastic rear cap and no front lens cap. Why? Well, it has its own shutter door to protect the small lens up front. And when I say small, it's very small. Now, this lens comes in at under 60 grams, so it's super lightweight, mostly built of plastic except for the rear mount, which is metal. Has the electronic connections and even a USB port for firmware updates, and you would not imagine how in the world that they would be able to get a USB, considering its body is so thin, and as a matter of fact, it's the smallest lens that Viltrox has ever made. And with saying that, it's worth mentioning that this lens has no weather sealing at all, so care must be taken when you're out in the rain, water, dust. You kind of get the idea. Now, there's no aperture ring or focus ring. Has a minimum focus distance of just over 1 foot, and it has some specs embossed on the front of the lens. So how good optically is this lens? Well, we're going to test it on my Sony a7 IV with some photos that are untouched, raw, unedited, straight out of camera, just to see how it looks. And let's take a look at those now. Ready, set, go. Now, bokeh with an f4.5 is not two words that you would actually put together. But you know what? It will give you enough separation and it will blur the background, and you can achieve a little bit of bokeh balls in the background. Now, a neat thing about this lens is some people may like it, some people may not. It gives you that 8-bladed starburst whenever you're in direct light or direct sunlight. Some people may not like that at all and find it very distracting. To me, I kind of like it because it does give this lens some character. Now let's talk about autofocus on this lens. That's right. This little guy right there, that thin little lens, has autofocus. And is it any good? Well, it's not super snappy, but considering how small that this is and the autofocusing lens, the autofocusing motor inside is going to be really, really small to be able to accommodate the small form factor of this lens. But it does work very adequate. Now let's take a look at a quick little autofocus test I did with this lens in video mode. So as much as this lens is a great lens for photography, how can it be used for videography? Is it even going to be useful? And I say yes that it is. Now at a 28mm, it is a great focal length, and considering how small that this lens is for a full frame camera, even though it's an f4.5, you can still get some nice separation between me and the background. It won't be like an f2.8 or a 1.4, but it's still very adequate. And let's do a quick little autofocus test. So the autofocus is not as snappy as what you would consider like with the other Viltrox lenses or native Sony lens, but it is snappy enough, I would say, because you got to remember how small that this lens is. Being called a chip, it's almost like a poker chip when you're going to Las Vegas as far as its thickness, because it's super thin and it only weighs 60 grams, which is phenomenal when you think about a lens that you could actually stick into your pocket. And it has autofocus. So that autofocus motor, I don't know how they stick it in such a compact little lens, but they did it, and it works very, very well for its size. Now let's talk about the motor noise on autofocus. There's going to be some motor noise with this. And remember, with it having a minimum focus distance of 1 foot, if you get a little bit closer than 1 foot, what happens is the lens will start pulsing like in this example. Now, considering that this lens is very, very small, and its cost is also very small, considering it's coming in at $99 for a 28mm full frame Pancake lens that is under 60 grams. It is the smallest Pancake lens, smallest lens period, that Viltrox has ever made. And considering that it has autofocus, which to me is a really big deal, and you have the ability to do firmware updates, because Viltrox is really good about doing firmware updates on all of their lenses, and they do them periodically. Probably every 3 to 4 months there's a firmware update that comes out. So it's very, very nice that they've actually added it into this little Pancake lens. Is it the best lens out there in the world? No. But when you figure I compare it up to my Sony a7 IV, put this on it, and be able to stick a full frame camera into your pocket and ready for running and gun shooting. I like the fact that you don't have to mess with an outer lens cap that you may lose. It's just got that little shutter door. You just flick it open, flick it closed. But remember, it is not weather sealed. So when this is open, make sure that no dust or particles get inside. And if you stick it into your camera bag, make sure that you close up that little shutter door to kind of protect the lens somewhat. So what do I think about this lens from Viltrox? Do I think it's worth it? Absolutely. Considering that it's a 28mm f4.5 Pancake lens for your full frame camera, you can't go wrong. And it's got autofocus. I mean, such a small little form factor. The images are nice and sharp. The color reproduction is very good. All in all, it's a good all-around lens. And I think that this lens is really needed for a lot of street photographers out there that want to be able to be inconspicuous and get some nice sharp images, because this lens does have some character to it. I'll probably product link down in the description below to their Indiegogo campaign so that you can grab one of these. They're doing like 30% off here and there, so try to get in on it early. My wife says for you to watch this video right over here because she thinks that you're going to like it, and if you do watch that video, she might bake you a cookie. Until the next review, I'll catch you later. Bye.